The writing skills definitely translate. When I was kind of doing the freelance writing, it was a lot of similar kind of writing to this. So it was like a bit of ghost writing, like for LinkedIn, for different kind of, social media sites. LinkedIn, honestly, is a really great source, whether it's other, experts that I follow who are in recruitment, talent acquisition, who they may have a lot more experience than I do. They've been doing it for a long, 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 long time, decades in some instance. And I always try to learn from them. They're often at the forefront of these kind of trends. And, you could call them thought leaders, I think would be a good way to describe them. I try to follow them and learn and emulate.
Hi, all. Good morning today. So, I have a very special guest with us who is all about unlocking career potential, who is one who usually writes a lot of newsletters specifying what's going on in the market, what he's learned along the way, and if he has any advice for job seekers out there. Let's welcome Matt on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where he will tell us what he looks in candidates, what he's learned along the way, and if he has any tips amongst so many layoffs, what would it be? Hi, Matt. How are you doing today?
Hey, Mino, I am very good. Thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm excited
Of
to be here, have a
course.
chat.
Thank you so much. So, Matt, I've spoken with a lot of people in the talent acquisition space, and a lot of them are like, we fell into the talent acquisition space. It was not an active choice, it just happened. What was your journey like? Was it an active choice? Was it by fate? Was it someone who inspired you to take this journey? So, can you tell us a little more about your story?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I didn't as a kid. I wasn't saying I want to grow up and be a recruiter. That's for sure. But yeah, actually, it was. I did. So in my first job, I worked as like a data analyst, and that was not for me. It was fine. The people were great. I really enjoyed the people, and that kind of led me to wanting to work with people rather than kind of only with data, for example. So I moved into another job, a more kind of job that was like HR, L&D, a little bit of recruitment focus. And then from there, I did a bunch of other stuff. I went into kind of brand and attraction for graduates specifically, so that was kind of some of the recruitment side of things. Going and talking to grads and meeting them, and that was really fun. Just tons of energy, and having really good conversations. And then I did a little bit of freelancing for a while, but in just freelance writing, so not anything to do with recruitment. And then when I was kind of looking for work after that, I wanted to kind of go back into sort of actually having a team and being around people. It was actually one of my friends who suggested recruitment, and I was like, I was feeling a bit lost at the time, and I was like, you know what, sure, like I'll give it a shot, and yeah, I found that kind of doing it full time really, like it was kind of filling that need of like wanting to be around people, wanting to talk to people, wanting to help people, like ultimately you're helping them get jobs, which is a really fulfilling thing to do. It's a very important thing. It's a big part of people's lives. You want them to be having fun doing it, or at least maybe learning something doing it. So yeah, I definitely sort of kind of fell into it, and then a friend kind of helped me out a little bit as well. But yeah, definitely kind of is a really fulfilling job actually, which and one you never think of when you're a kid. So yeah, not a professional footballer, but it's a sort of professional recruiter. I'll take it.
Okay, no, that sounds amazing. And your friend was the main culprit because I think as the pandemic hit, I think a lot of people wanted to do something more just than earn good money. And I'm glad you found your purpose, which is to help people find their dream job. Which brings me to my next question. You started your own newsletter, which is how to get a new job. Can you tell us more about that? What inspired you? You did mention you did do freelancing, specifically when it came to writing. How were your skills transferred there? What was your learning experience, and how's that been going so far for you?
Yeah, so the writing skills definitely translate. When I was kind of doing the freelance writing, it was a lot of similar kind of writing to this. So it was like a bit of ghost writing, like for LinkedIn, for different kind of social media sites. There was copywriting, it was email newsletter writing, writing articles. So there was a lot of that stuff that I was doing anyway, and really the newsletter was kind of born of the LinkedIn content because that was kind of going pretty well. Like the audience was kind of growing and the community was kind of growing a bit, and I wanted a more, I guess, kind of direct and if I can use this word, intimate sort of way of reaching people, kind of like almost that like social media, you're scrolling, there's all sorts going on, there's notifications, and like an email is like kind of me talking to you directly, right? And it's like it's just me and you, we're having kind of a conversation, and so it allowed me to do that, and for people to kind of really kind of respond to that and be like, oh yeah, I'm kind of hearing from this really useful information, and I don't have to kind of all the notifications and deal with all that stuff and scrolling and whatever. And it also allows for kind of a bit more longer form writing. I can go into a bit more detail. I can give more examples. I can tell stories. Like LinkedIn is, you find it better with the sort of, I guess, the sort of bite-sized content, right? At least that's kind of what I've experienced. So yeah, it kind of allowed me to go into a bit more detail and kind of really dive into stuff that I knew would help people. So, one of them, for example, is people ask me like, about changing roles, changing industry, and I wrote kind of a whole guide about doing that. And basically, the kind of the summary of it, unfortunately, is there are no guarantees. There is a lot of stuff you can do to help. There's no guarantees, but LinkedIn doesn't kind of really allow for that. This was like thousands of words to write, so you can't really do it on LinkedIn. So yeah, it was that, and I think there's 2,200 people on it now, 2,200 subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, it's just really cool. It's kind of honestly like I really enjoy it myself, but it's a real like privilege, to be honest with you, that people would sign up for it and think the stuff is helpful. I really try to make it as helpful as possible. So yeah, exciting stuff.
No, I mean, you're taking out extra time to make a difference in so many people's lives because these days the mark everywhere, so news is saturated. You go on, you search something, and there's thousands of articles, and you're like, okay, I'm struggling to even choose one. So I'm glad that people out you there are sharing your experiences, what you've learned along the way, specifically during the job navigation process, because I think job hopping was considered okay now, but people are skeptical now because the market is tough right now. So I think it's interesting to see that you're going above and beyond just to help people during that journey. So I'm glad that selfless people like you exist who want to make that difference. So thank you so much for doing that, Matt, for a lot of people out there.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. Well, you're exactly the same doing this podcast. We're trying to do the same thing, which is just help people. I think it's
Exactly.
yeah, I love it.
Okay, so my next question for you is you have a lot of skills when it comes to sales, marketing, learning. How do you think your skills are transferable across multiple industries? Because I think a lot of roles these days require you to be flexible. They require you to wear multiple hats. So how do you make sure that you work with your skills in a way where they would showcase your personality and your skills in a positive way?
Yeah, really good question. So I think, there are a couple of skills certainly that are, like some of the most kind of transferable skills, if you like, or skills that would apply to any role are the ability to communicate, not only in the written form, but over video nowadays, in person. I think no matter what role you have, no matter what level you're at, no matter what discipline, company, being able to communicate what you've done, the value that you bring, is always going to be important. That's never not going to be important. So I think that's a really really key one for people to either embrace and kind of do more of, or perhaps think, hey, maybe I could kind of work on this a little bit. Maybe I could improve that a little bit. Particularly if you're in a company and you want to grow and kind of develop, and you want to kind of either climb up the ladder, as it were, or kind of just be a better subject matter expert. Like, you still need those communication skills. And then kind of similar to that, I think as well, just like having um I guess it kind of all intertwines between kind of stakeholder management and teamwork, and sort of having a humility, which is kind of what I talked about the other day in terms of the interview process. But I just think in your career anyway, like being able to work with stakeholders of all different levels, whether they're really junior or really senior, being able to work as part of a team, and you see that kind of meme come across LinkedIn every now and again, where it's like, being nice is just being easy and nice to work with is really underrated. And it's true. Like, it really 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 is true. Doesn't mean letting yourself get walked all over, but it's like, just being a good teammate and nice to work with. And yeah, I think just being able to communicate at all levels, work as a team, communicate written, verbally, over video, all of that stuff is like, there's no role in which you kind of don't need that. You might not be talking to people all day, every day, like I am in recruitment. But as I said, even if you want to just advocate for yourself, explain something you've done, talk to your manager about something, that's always going to be valuable. It's not going to go out of fashion anytime soon, no matter what, kind of AI thing comes along. I mean, I say that in 200 years, I don't know. But for now, well, the communication is vital.
I think that's very important because when AI came, ChatGPT came, a lot of people got worried that they're going to lose their jobs. But essentially, they forgot that the human connection is something that's based on humility, that's based on empathy, that's being able to converse with people where you can understand where they're coming from, putting yourselves into their shoes, and coming up with an understanding perspective. And as long as you bring that to the table, you're going to be way ahead of AI, especially because I think a lot of people undermine those skills these days. People think that they're just in it with them for themselves. They're just going to go work from 9 to 5, not make the human connections. But if you just like take the extra mile at work, maybe help someone with their work, the word gets around. You will get rewarded for it essentially, even if it's not immediately. So thank you so much for sharing that, Matt. Last question, Matt. I know you've been in the talent acquisition space for a while. You write a newsletter. So, how do you keep up to date with the recent trends when it comes to hiring, with the recent trends when it comes to the best skills that are hiring, with the recent trends when it comes to the best skills that are required for new jobs? There's so much information everywhere. So, how do you make sure you are up to date and knowledgeable enough to guide
Yeah,
other
really
people
good
during that
question. So
process as well?
LinkedIn, honestly, is a really great source. Whether it's other, experts that I follow who are in recruitment, talent acquisition, who they may have a lot more experience than I do. They've been doing it for a long, 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 long time, decades in some instance. And I always try to learn from them. They're often at the forefront of these kind of trends, and you could call them thought leaders. I think would be a good way to describe them. I try to follow them and learn and emulate in some ways. Try to do that. And then I think just kind of having as a recruiter working in a company internally, you kind of have your finger on the pulse of like how many roles are we recruiting for? Are there any roles being pulled? Are we kind of halting on recruitment? Is there a freeze? Is there a drive? So I think that, and then it's often, especially when it's kind of a kind of bigger company, like there often is kind of a pulse, generally speaking, of like how the economy is doing. Kind of recruitment is sort of a bellwether, I've heard people say, which is a good way to describe it. If lots of companies are hiring, in general, the economy is doing pretty good. If there's kind of a hiring freeze, or unfortunately, like if there are, there's been layoffs and things, and that's, there's been kind of, again, the economy is kind of, whether it's a correlation, I don't know, but like the two things are definitely interlinked in terms of kind of what's going on in the world as well. So yeah, I use LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn's kind of got that news thing on the side as well, right? I do look at that, and I'm like, oh, this thing's kind of coming out, or like they talk about AI and hiring, or there's unfortunately this company's laid off, or even what's the future of work, remote work, things like that, hybrid. So yeah, honestly, I use LinkedIn. I use thought kind of leaders on LinkedIn, people who kind of really appear to be at the forefront of it, and then just kind of make sure I'm trying to keep my finger on the pulse, when it comes to my day job as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I think, especially when you are sharing your knowledge with other people, it's your responsibility to make sure yourself that you're well equipped, so you don't misguide people. So I'm glad you're taking those steps and you're going above and beyond, not only by your day-to-day job, but also a newsletter. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know I said it was the last question, Matt, because you mentioned about jobs and hiring. Are you hiring within your current company? What are some of the roles that you're hiring for? So if people are looking for jobs, especially because they've been
Yeah,
laid off,
definitely. Great
they
question.
know what
So
to
at the
seek for.
moment, I'm personally hiring for quite a few security roles, info security, cyber security, you might call it. So, there's kind of more senior roles, there's sort of mid level roles. So, any kind of roles you see on the website, the sort of, security engineers, or, senior security engineers, or kind of security lead roles. There's definitely kind of a lot of those going on. It's a good time to be in, cybersecurity, infosec. So if you're doing that, definitely. I've also got some strategy roles as well. Again, they are. There's a couple of really senior strategy roles, and then there's a few more junior strategy roles. So again, kind of being able to, and on some of kind of our most popular, games and franchises and things like that. So yeah, those are definitely kind of really interesting for someone who's got that sort of the right background, and obviously all the details kind of on the job description. What else have I got? There's some IT roles as well. So if you're in IT, sort of the customer facing IT, or sort of colleague facing, if you like, helping people, with all our various IT issues and problems that come up, and we can't nowhere near as good as the IT guys at sort of using our computer and all that. So yeah, if you're in that kind of service desk type positions, we're hiring for those. And that's just in the UK. We're also hiring, positions in Spain. We're hiring positions in Sweden, the US. There's a lot of positions there. So yeah, there's fortunately a fair amount of hiring going on at the moment. So definitely kind of, if you're in any of those roles, but even if you're just looking for, or if you have just been laid off, please do consider us. Have a look, see what's available. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know.
Yeah, okay. Well, Matt, our time is up. Thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your personal journey, but as well as showcasing how selfless you are, because you not only are making a difference in people's lives daily by connecting them with the right job, but you're also showcasing your learnings in a newsletter that is helping around 2,200 people, which is absolutely amazing. Your journey, your selflessness will go a long way, and I'm pretty sure you've made such a big difference in so many people's lives,
Yeah,
especially doing
thanks,
good
Mina.
jobs like
Thanks for
yours.
having me.
Thank you so much.
And you're doing the same. You're making a difference. I love this. I love this idea of these kind of quick, sort of bite-sized little podcasts. So yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.